think we are live. Go ahead and let me know in the chat when you guys can hear me. Hi everybody. Happy October. I'm back. I was just going to say I'm feeling good, but still my brain and mouth don't want to work properly together, but you know. I have a little fan here. This room gets really hot. Hi, Janelle. My mom made this shirt, Janelle, for my birthday. She made a bunch of shirts. Hi, Sharon. She made a bunch of shirts. She actually made this design. So we actually own this design and some other more cosmic-y ones with like suns and moons and planets and stuff. Designs that we own, and she's gonna make shirts and sell them on my site. But this one is for those of you who don't know, this is from Gilmore Girls, which if you follow me, I'm sure you've picked up on the fact that I like that show. I don't like a lot of TV, but I really did like that show. So I was saying I have a little fan right here because it is so hot in this room. Yeah, you know what she does, Janelle, and I will tell you this really quick because you're here. Those of you watching this on YouTube later, you'll just have to be here for the chit chat. She uses the Cricut that you have, and she makes like a sticker stencil, and then she peels it off and she puts it on a silk screening thing. So instead of having the silk screen thing burned with emulsion, which Eddie does when he makes my shirts, she just makes it with the Cricut and puts it on the thing. This is like a 3-layer one though. It's like 3 different layers, so it's kind of like a hard thing. But my mom took classes in how to silk screen. She's who I inherited my craftiness from. But anyway, hi everybody. Okay, so this month is, wow, it's crazy. I mapped out the map. This is a month that I have been looking forward to. So I already was fairly aware of the energetics of the month of October before I actually hopped in and mapped it all out today. By the way, those of you on Patreon, you can go and download the PDF of the calendar. If you're watching this later on YouTube, there will be a screenshot thing for you to screenshot here in a second. But I already kind of knew the energetics of it, and then I mapped it out today, and I just kept getting all these things oh yeah, say that, and then oh yeah, all these connections I was making. And normally I write it all down, and then I get sucked into channeling notes. I didn't really do that. I was just you know what? You're just gonna go and talk. You have so much stuff to say. There's no way you're gonna be able to write a bunch of notes. We're also gonna dive into an interesting, very interesting point here in the sky. So let's just get into it because you guys know I'll just start chit-chatting. This is our thumbnail. I added a little bit more to that little sentence over there on the next slide. But you guys know I always like to try to encapsulate as much into this as possible. I should have added a picture of the great attractor into here. I'm really wishing I did. I didn't, but we're going to cover that extensively here tonight. Janelle's talking about printing shirts. So, as you guys know, we have passed the equinox point. The autumn equinox in the northern hemisphere was back on the 22nd here of September. And the spring equinox for the southern hemisphere was on that same day. So it was this brief limbo point. Now I know I have several Patreon subscribers who do live in Australia, so when I'm talking about the seasonal shift here, that doesn't necessarily apply for you. You're heading more into the summery months. You're heading into spring. You're in spring right now, and we are in autumn. So we're heading into, here in the northern hemisphere, we're heading into the darker months. Now that being said, we all are headed into Scorpio season, from the balanced, like limbo type point of like 0 point where you're like beyond both time and space for a second there. I don't know if you guys realized or felt that maybe September kind of felt like liminal, like not really like you were really here. You're kind of like between two things, while also like initiating something new. You're initiating the onset of autumn, the shift from light to dark. And now we're heading into the darker months, and we're heading into Scorpio season, and very much this energy of metamorphosis, of the void. And we're going to talk about that heavily tonight, and this like unknown, even when it comes to like the cosmic realm, and how that really is the focal point for everything. The unknown is what we are all revolving around, and it's what all of our philosophical beliefs ultimately are trying to answer. So real quick, I'm just going to read what I have here. And it just says that the balance, the void, the veil, the hidden, the truth, Atlantis, Andromeda, and the power of alchemical transformation. I also added here on the next slide authoritarian power grabs, or something like authoritarian pushes, or something authoritarian, something about power and authority. We'll get there in a second. But I also have Andromeda here. Andromeda is a very large, a very major focal point of the energy of October. We will be having a lot of alignments with that point, including our full moon. And all the personal planets are going to transit it through opposition. So it's very, very much in play here. And we'll cover that as we dive in. So what that is a picture of Andromeda up at the top, and then they say this is what it would look like when the Milky Way and Andromeda collide. But Earth is not going to just be like sitting here watching it happen from the sky. Like, we are on the outer arm of the Milky Way spiral galaxy. Like, we'll be part of that whole mixture there, that whole collide. We'll dive into that here. So go ahead and take a screenshot of this if you are a Patreon member. Let me just move my face for a second. If you're a Patreon member, you have access to a PDF. If you're on YouTube, you'll have to take a screenshot. I hope it's not blurry. It probably is. This is the breakdown that we're going to go through here as we go through the chart. And then up at the top, it just has like some of what we're going to be talking about. The focus is really around the great attractor, which we're going to cover extensively tonight. Atlantis and Andromeda. Those are like the weirder out there transits that are kind of like anchoring this all in. We're going to talk a lot about our super cluster, which is our even bigger cosmic body than what we talk about often when I discuss the super galactic center and the galaxies that rotate that. It's our even bigger family. And the concept of the void and the unknown and dark matter and the expansion of the universe, it's going to get very weird. But yeah, what did I say? Authoritarian power grabs and the power of alchemical transformation. All right, so let's dive in the chart here. Okay, I'm going to head over to my software, so I'm not going to be able to see you guys here in the chat. Sean, I am using my old computer that is super glitchy because I need this software. Solar Fire is supposed to be coming out with Mac software apparently in December. So until December, I'm kind of like between computers, especially if I want to use like the Super Galactic Center or the Galactic Center or Atlantis or, you know, all the things that I jive with. So we're here. But if it goes crazy, just text me. Okay, please, please. Thank you. All right, so this is the chart of today, October 1st. We're actually meeting on the 1st for once. Usually it falls on like a weekend or like something where I have to do it later. Let me get my calendar. Okay. All right, so as we meet here, the sun is over here at 9 degrees of Libra, only a couple of degrees away from Mars. Today is actually the exact opposition between Mars and Chiron here in Aries, Chiron retrograde. And Mercury, which is also retrograde, came into an exact square with Pluto retrograde today. And I believe that is the last, okay, no, Venus tomorrow. Okay. What was I saying? Okay, so today we have Chiron and Mars through opposition. The same day that Mercury retrograde, which we have all been feeling, particularly me, because this whole stellium here is like on top of all my things. It's on top of everything. But we're all feeling Mercury focusing on a certain area of your life. Look and see where Libra is in your chart. What house does Libra rule in your chart? Why is this? Hold on. Give me a second. I'm changing this. It was not the right. It had like if I was at a certain place. I want to do an Aries rising chart. So just give me 1 second. It's easy to fix. And it's also New York, so it's going to mess with my time. Why does it always do that? It changes on me. Oh, my computer crashed. That's why. Okay, let's go. Okay. Hello? I have to close that, and then that one will be the one that we see. Solar fire, why are you not showing the right things? Did I make a horrible mistake by doing this? Okay, yeah, that's the one. Sorry, guys. Okay, now everything is where it's supposed to be. Okay, so we have the sun here and Mars opposite Chiron at the same time that Mercury comes into a square with Pluto retrograde. Now, this is the second to the last aspect that is going to happen to Pluto before it stations direct next week. We actually have several planets stationing direct. That is kind of like the key energy of the month that, you know, normal astrologers will be talking about. They'll be talking about Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury all stationing direct. You guys can see me over here, right? Okay, just making sure. They'll be talking about all these planets stationing direct. And yes, we're going to talk about that here as well. But what I really am zeroing in on is a lot of these Atlantis alignments, the Andromeda alignments, and the Great Attractor. But before we get there, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on now. We've been feeling the approaching Sun-Mars conjunction, which is actually going to be exact on the 7th. I'm just going to be jumping around here tonight, guys. Which is actually going to be exact on the 7th. This is probably giving you some sort of like motivation to make decisions, take action. A lot of our other planets are retrograde, so that kind of gives the planets that are in a forward motion more juice, like more of a focus. And with the sun approaching this conjunction, these placements here are all going to be a key players in our approaching new moon as well. But we're really feeling this Mars alignment. Our sun is practically here as well. The sun will oppose Chiron on the 3rd. So from now through next week, this opposition here is really a key player. You can go ahead and throw Atlantis into the mix. And this asteroid here is actually Pandora. So a lot of what we're going to be experiencing this month has this like undertone of Atlantean like secrets, Atlantean agendas, Atlantean karma, Atlantean truth and justice because it's Libra. And then also like all the shit that's been repressed and hidden and swept under the rug and put in a box is going to be like unleashed upon us. A lot of it started today with this Mercury Pluto square. And a lot of the transits to Pluto and Pluto stationing direct later this month are really going to be where a lot of information is shared. A lot of things that have been done or like set into motion in the background. So I've said this before, like everything has a chart, right? So like if I were to launch my website, like whatever time I launch my website, like it has a chart and all the planets are in a certain place, and that is how that plan, that's the energy that will be connected to that plan. A business has a chart, a country has a chart, and any sort of like agenda implemented by authority figures would also have a chart. So if you've kind of noticed, we've been in a lull. There's been a lot of like talk, a lot of like setting the stage, a lot of like, oh, this in the future and this in the future, and like we're pushing for this. But once all these planets station direct, Pluto on the 6th, Saturn on the 10th, Jupiter on the 17th, and Mars on the 8th, Mercury on the 18th, the same day that the government is supposedly supposed to run out of money. After all those planets stationed direct, you can really expect to see a lot of things implemented, a lot of things that would require power and authority in order to push forward. So we know here in the Cosmic Alliance that are the elitists that wanna rule our reality. The powers that wanna be are cultists and know very much about what's going on in the sky. And so, they're gonna definitely be waiting for all of these things to come forth. Pluto is the planet of power. Saturn is the planet of authority. Once these station direct, you can very much expect to see extreme power grabs, extreme pushes of authority. These are going to be squaring multiple things this month. We'll get on as we go along here, but it's going to be bringing a lot of conflict to the personal planets from these big daddies over here in the sky. And so we're really headed towards this like second part of the year that is like a whole nother ball game. Not to mention we have eclipses next month, so this is all setting us up for it. Also, you guys have been hearing me talk about America's Pluto return for like ever. If you followed me, I've been talking about it for years, actually, which most astrologers have because it's very significant. And that will become exact in February of 2020. And this is actually the last retrograde Pluto will have before that Pluto return of America, before Pluto reaches the point in the sky where it was when America was born, when the Constitution was signed. Are we going to see another like revolution and push to, rebirth, give like a rebirth to the Constitution, which is literally already dead, let's be honest? Or are we going to see just like the utter destruction of it and the onset of something new? These are said to bring huge shifts in power. And we very much see that happening from like localized government to one world government. And I think we can definitely expect to see a lot more UN involvement here in the coming months. Yeah, it's going to get sticky, guys. So we've been experiencing this Chiron opposition, right? Today, tomorrow, leading forward, even part of the moon will be playing off of this as well next week. This is what we're feeling. These are core wounds. These are core wounds within the self. You guys have heard me say this a million times because Chiron has been here for quite a while in Aries. Look and see where Aries falls in your chart. What house is this for you? This is the wounds that Chiron is asking you to dive into right now and transmute. He is also retrograde. So he's really doing this work on an internal level, focusing on a certain area and really trying to bring that forth. Chiron has been here for a while and will be here for a while. These are wounds that revolve around the self, Aries, but right now are being triggered by and through opposition by this huge stellium that very much houses Chiron, houses Atlantis. We were really feeling this towards the end of last month. Mars and the sun. Mars is our driving force. It's how we fight for what we value. It is aggressive. As our sun approaches Mars, we are like literally set on fire. Like the frustration, the angst, the anger, the resentment, all of these things are going to be coming forward. The inability to think before we act will also be extremely prevalent. So make sure you are pausing and giving yourself a chance to think through that like balance of Libra. Libra wants to weigh both sides of the scales. I am a Libra and I have a Libra stellium, and I see all the Libra memes about how we're like indecisive and we can never make up our minds, and I take offense to them because I think that people are too quick to make up their mind and choose one side of that scale, and that is why we're constantly at odds with each other. And there are those of us who can see that neither side of the scale is whole. Neither side of the scale is accurate, and neither side of the scale is going to bring balance and harmony. I need to find it within. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and in order to do that, we have to step back. We have to weigh our options. We have to intellectualize it as well. Libra is very much a mental sign. And with Mars there in Libra, we are given the chance to kind of pause. But Libra's focus is truth and justice. And with Mars there, like we can jump the gun if we feel like that is not what's being seen. That is not what is being heard. You know, if we feel like our truth is not being heard, or if someone, somewhere, anyone, anywhere, is not seeing the justice that they deserve, Mars and Libra can get loud and fiery. But really, we're focusing on a lot of core wounds, and they revolve around needing to find this balance, and also these timelines of balance. You guys on Patreon, you all have access to the Atlantis video I did, where I talked about Atlantis being both like the balance point and also then the fall into consciousness from our transition from more of a yin-based energy into the masculine mind. For a brief moment there was balance, but then we continued to fall to fully develop this mind. And now we're back at this sort of like mirror point to this energy, which I dive very heavily into that video through charts dating very far back. And now with Atlantis in Libra, the sign of balance, this is really what's coming forth. And in order for us to find that, a lot has to be shown to us. And Pandora is very much here to like let all the cats out of the bag. And a lot of these Pluto transits as well are really here to like trigger what was hidden. Not to mention all of these planets about to enter Scorpio, the detective, which is ruled by Pluto and is very much there to dive deep, deep, deep into what is hidden, what is secretive, what is unseen, what is unknown, the mysteries, and piece all the clues together and make some fucking sense of it. So we have Mercury retrograde coming into this square with Pluto today, which is really seeding our consciousness with some of what both of these are about. Both of what the Pluto power in Capricorn, the system, has ready to bestow upon us. Not yet, though. We still have dates in the future. We've had a couple of really loud statements happen today from governors, and I'm trying to be really careful what I say because they've also made some announcements about what they're doing on this platform, YouTube. So if you follow me on Discord, you know, because I posted about it in there. But the statements that are being made by certain governors about future dates, those are things that are going to take place once all these planets are direct. But right now, our consciousness, Mercury, is starting to see. It's starting to see and understand the severity of the situation. And Mars is ready to kind of just burn it all down. So we have Mercury today making that square. And then tomorrow, we have a Venus sextiling Pluto. So Venus sextiling Pluto is a harmonious aspect. They are working harmoniously together, but it will require us to put in a little bit of work. Venus is in Scorpio right now, in the depths of our most intense and intimate relationships, both with ourself and our shadow and those around us. And coming into that square with Pluto, it's almost like we are simultaneously having like the relationships that are going to get us through this are being more solidified right now on a more deeply emotional basis, as opposed to like more light and airy and fluffy and harmonious like Libra. It's more deeply rooted and fixed, Scorpio, and very extremely loyal and solidified. And it's coming into an sextile with Pluto retrograde. This is the last aspect that will happen to Pluto before it stations direct, and then moves on and in a direct fashion until past February, when it will align with America's Pluto. The last thing this Pluto retrograde cycle is here to show us is the importance of these deeply intimate relationships. You know, we're not meant to be connected to too many people. Yes, we are a collective conscious. Yes, the internet helps us very much connect to lots and lots and lots of people. And yes, that very much does help us to reclaim all these aspects of self that are mirrored back to us and become whole. It is helpful, but it is also a detriment. We need to make sure that we are giving the focus and the transformation that's needed to these aspects. This month very much has a focus on relationships for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, there's a Libra stellium right now. Libra rules relationships. All of these planets are moving into Scorpio, which really rules those like deep, intimate relationships. We have a Libra moon, an Aries full moon coming up, both of which fall in the sign of Libra, either through opposition or conjunction. And then we have all of these we have those too. But we have all of the Andromeda alignments, which if you follow me for a while, you've heard me talk about how the Andromeda galaxy is the Milky Way's twin flame. Like that picture on the cover of this video, they are destined to collide. Their fates are intertwined, and their stories will eventually merge. Some scientists or astronomers say that they've already started to merge, like the outer like cosmic dust. Okay, I'm going to move on because obviously I can just keep talking. So the sun's exact opposition with Chiron will be on the 3rd. So we're really focusing on this opposition over the coming days. And simultaneously a Venus-Pluto trine. So really leaning into those relationships will help with the transformation that we're going to need in order to rectify this opposition. These things are at odds. They're lighting up one of those 6 axes of polarities that are very much seeking balance and union. we'll lean more into that as we get to the full moon, but this is being highlighted right now. Okay. Speaking of the new moon, let's just go there. So on the 6th is going to be a very powerful day. On the 6th, we have our Libra new moon. The live stream on Patreon for this moon will actually be the day before on the 5th. And the 6th is also the day that Pluto stations direct, being the first to do so in that little domino thing I laid out for you earlier. Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury. Okay, so our Libra full moon falls at 14 degrees, exactly conjunct Mars. Exactly conjunct Mars. The Mars exact conjunction is actually the next day on the 7th, but look at it, it's practically conjunct on the 6th. Only a couple of 4 degrees away from Atlantis, which is conjunct Mercury at the time, which is only a couple of degrees away from Pandora. The moon will actually be back here at the time of the... Let's just put it in here so you guys know the time. 4:05 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it falls at 13 degrees, my bad. 13 degrees, exactly conjunct Mars. 5 degrees away from Atlantis, which is only 2 degrees away from Mercury, which is only 2 degrees away from Pandora. These are all working together. Opposite Chiron, Hecate, and Eris. So we have the wounds, the magic, the destruction, the chaos that needs to occur in order to kind of like shake these systems that are being built. A lot of this will revolve around the self and our relationships with others. You want to also look and see what house Aries and Libra fall in your chart. That is really going to be where you're feeling this like tug and war of energy that's seeking unification. We're also going to be feeling this throughout the month because we will be having a full moon later on the 20th that will be seeking this as well. And it will be lining with these points. It'll actually be here at 27 degrees, practically on top of Eris. So these are going to be the focus throughout the month. The areas that are ruled by Aries, by Libra, and also Scorpios. We enter Scorpio season. We'll dive in much... The software is glitching and leaving tons of time. Oh my gosh! Sharon, it sure is. Okay. Okay, hold on. Okay, wow. Okay, how do I fix this? Okay, give me 1 second. Wow, that's new. Oh, Mercury, I knew you would come and mess with me. Mercury rules my first house. You guys have heard me say this. He rules my chart, but then astrologers say, no, he rules your horoscope. Whatever. He rules my first house, and he's all up on my shit all the time. Mercury. Okay, I'm going to go move my mouse around a bunch of times and see if it does it again and then come back and check. And then this thing did that, and then we did some stuff over here, and la-di-da-da stuff. Okay, we're good. I thought it was just me still having problems with tech. You should call Mercury. Yeah, okay, it's already much better. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, thank you. Good looking out. Okay. I don't remember what I was saying. We were talking about the moon, Pluto stationing direct on the 6th. Do I have anything else I wanted to say about that? It is also aligned with a star in Draco. We will dive much deeply into this for the video on this. I have a lot I want to say, but I don't want to spend too much time on the moons because we're going to have whole videos for that. So I'm gonna move on. Okay, so on the 7th Venus will enter Sagittarius. Here it's up at 29 degrees, so just imagine it does it later. I don't know what time. Venus will enter Sagittarius, and the sun will finally reach its exact conjunction with Mars. I feel like I've been feeling this forever. It's like right on top of my Venus, my sun, my south node, my Atlantis placements are all here, but literally this happens right on top of my Venus. It's at 14 degrees of Libra. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the like ADHD. That's one of the reasons why I didn't like sit there and try to like channel all the notes this time, is because like I literally couldn't do it. Like I can't sit still. Like I know all these planets are retrograde, but I don't feel like they are. I feel like I can't sit still. I'm really feeling this a lot because it's so heavily aspecting my chart. And it will become exact on the 7th. And then from there we will move on. So definitely be mindful around the 7th. Not only is Venus leaving the fixed waters of Scorpio for the buoyant fires of Sagittarius, where it's already more like outgoing and reckless. Oh, that's the same message. But we have this happening. Yes, it's in Libra, the sign of balance, but Libra is a cardinal sign. It is active. It initiates things. And with Mars there conjunct the sun, we are going to be feeling reckless. We also are feeling the approaching square between both of these and Pluto, which will be happening later in the month. So it's like right as the sun reaches Mars, that like warrior, fiery archetype that wants to like defend, it's coming into a square from what it feels it needs to defend from. If you can see, it's actually in a T-square with Eris in an exact square. Pluto and Eris are in an exact square. Hecate is here as well, particularly with Mercury. It's in opposition to Mercury. So we have the like darker, powery archetype as well. Pluto, that like death, rebirth, transformation, the underworld, Hades, more of a patriarchal darkness, more of a masculine darkness. And then we also have Eris and Hecate in play, which brings in the like, I feel like sometimes the masculine archetype kind of like just destroys for the sake of like power and evolution of civilization, like manifest destiny type mindset, where it's like a lot of destruction occurs in the wake of obtaining power. And I think that like the feminine darker archetypes of like the divine mother, or Hecate, the like three-faced goddess. Eris, you know, she'll set some shit on fire just for the fuck of it. But Hecate, I feel like she has more of a purpose to it. Like, things are destroyed because they are not viable, not just because they're in our way. You know what I mean? Eris might just blow some shit up that's in her way. Eris is the archetype of Mars, which is right opposing it right now, and Pluto. If you mix Mars and Pluto together, you get Eris. So it's almost like she's the female Mars and Pluto mixed together, and they're all here. And this is very much alchemical in nature, from moving from one thing to another, usually with some chaos and destruction and power grabs and things along those lines. I would definitely lean into the Hecate aspect, the like three-faced goddess, in order to kind of navigate this like darker realm that we're heading into, where there will be a lot of illusions afoot, particularly later in the month when we come into some Neptune squares. But my astrological, like, what's it called, where you public service announcement is just that, like, we are heading into like super chaotic energy. Like I've never done this before, you guys. You know me. I'm always here to try. I wish I didn't have this ascendant here. Just ignore this and the midheaven. It's not pertaining to anything. I should have taken those out. You guys know me. I'm always here to try to find like, oh, but like this transit's not that bad. Like we can flip it and we can use it, and like this is actually good, and yay, transformation. And while I was doing this calendar, there were multiple times where I was like, dear God. I think I even was like, oh Jesus, at one point, right around like the 20th, the 21st, like the Mars square Pluto, like when these things start to become exact that we're feeling now. This is intense, you guys. This is chaotic. These are huge authoritarian power grabs and like very, very fiery, like revolutionaries. If like Libra, the archetype of Libra is distorted, heavily distorted. You see like the memes of like girls with like pink lipstick and like fuzzy purses, and you can't make decisions, and they're just flirts, right? And that's like a manifestation of Libra, yes. But Libra is like the warrior for truth and justice. The justice card in astrology, in the tarot, holding that like sword of truth, of like the I always like to think of it as Excalibur, but that's because I'm like kind of obsessed with Arthurian legends. But that like sword of truth, and the scales. So that is going to very much be an archetype of focus throughout this month as these things transit through here, and particularly Mars igniting the sun on the 7th as Venus enters Sagittarius. Venus is our values. Yes, it's our relationships, but it's also our values, and it's going to be entering Sagittarius, conjuncting the South Node. Sagittarius is the sign of our beliefs, our fixed beliefs, our philosophical beliefs, our religious beliefs, our whatever sort of beliefs that we have put upon ourselves. And the South Node has been transiting through here in a retrograde fashion, because the nodes always move retrograde. This is where all of our past eclipses have been. We've been doing an overhaul. Of this energy. And Venus entering here on the 7th, coming into that conjunction with the South Node, just as the Sun conjuncts Mars, beginning to square Pluto in this T-square. It's like we're heated. Our values are aligning with the beliefs we are supposed to be moving away from. We've done a lot of transmuting and like deconstructing. And so we're going to be like kind of tested to see if we're ready to let go of a lot of these things. While simultaneously a lot of new information is coming to the surface, kind of showing us that like, are you going to accept this narrative? How are we going to move forward in the search of justice and truth? This conjunction of Venus in the South Node actually squares Alexandria. It comes into a T-square with obviously the North Node, which is right by Lilith, which is a key player in the Halloween energy. We'll get there in a second, the Samhain energy. But in a T-square to Alexandria. So it's like our beliefs have been rattled. Our beliefs, we have questioned them so very heavily, and we're working on trying to align. This has been a key message coming through all my one-on-one Starseed clients last month, that we're working on remembering what was lost. That is why we haven't been able to truly pin down what exactly it is we believe, because we have nothing to reference it against, because we are living in an illusion confusing realm right now where everything is upside down and nothing is as it seems. Look at all these retrograde planets. Like, we're in backwards land. Everything is backwards. And we're still on like the tail end of this this nodal axis, this Gemini and Sagittarius nodal axis, this like tail end of this transformation before we start our next eclipse story. They kind of overlap. And that next month, we'll dive into that next month. And it's like we are simultaneously shedding the beliefs, this system we inherited from our immediate system, while like remembering through the conflicts that are occurring around us, it is triggering these like past life remembrances of things, like questions. It's going to be a lot of questioning it all, and coming to new understandings through questioning our core beliefs. The Sun and Mars conjunction actually aligns perfectly with the star in Draco. And so it is very much aligned with that like serpent that can go a multitude of ways, you know? There is that like lower reptilian aspect that is very much feeds off of fear and power and lust. And then there is that like ascended wisdom archetype of the like Kundalini awakening, and the integration of that aspect of the self. I talk a lot about how the reptilian part of the brain is the one that is connected to our spinal cord, to our chakra system, to our pineal gland, and how it must be addressed in order to truly come online. And so I think that this is happening. I have my Venus here. I have a couple of placements aligned with stars and Drake. I have like everything in my chart. It's crazy. But I do have my Venus here, so I do have this exact Draco placement. I also have Alpha Draconis, which is over here, currently aligned with Alexandria. It's actually at 7 degrees. And they manifest differently. They really do. The focus on the Draco activations in Virgo are more focused on like aligning with paths of service. So like, are you in service to self? Are you in service to others? How are you working on finding a middle ground in order to navigate this reality? And like kind of checking your shadow when it comes to those things. And the Draco placements here in Libra, because Draco pretty much falls in all the signs. It circles the celestial pole. There's like pretty much a Draco. I think there is a star of Draco in every single sign. And the one here in Libra very much has the focus on like finding that balance, working to find that balance, that then will be integrated as we enter into these other signs here, where we align with like Serpens, and then Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, who works to integrate that at the galactic center. So the focus here is very much on like finding the balance between our relationships and the self, and how we can use that in order to kind of like it for others. And how can we use it for others? It's not so much like Virgo, where it's like, are we in service to self? Are we in service to others? Libra's like, their focus on truth and justice is not self-servient. It's not because, like, I think Sag sometimes just wants to know for themselves. I think Scorpio, the detective, also wants to kind of dive in and know for themselves. I don't think they even often care to share their findings with others. But Libra does it for something greater than themselves. They do it for the sake of the truth, for the sake of what is right and divine and just. Like, it doesn't matter my beliefs, Sagittarius. It doesn't matter, I can't think of an adjective for Scorpio right now. But what matters to Libra is that this just is truth. And truth is important, and we must honor it. And I think that many of us who either have Libra placements or just, resonate with that energy of like the truth seeker are going to really be feeling this Sun Mars conjunction. A lot of the astrologers are talking about, all of the things going direct, and those are super important. But for me, God, I've been feeling this approaching conjunction. Like my ADD is just off the chain. Okay, I'm going to come over to the chat really quick and make sure you guys are there. We here? We're good? Everybody's good? You should call. Okay, we're good. Okay. So the energy around that moon is very strong. We'll dive so much more into that now later. So this brings me to the 9th. The 9th, we have Mercury retrograde come into this like exact conjunction with the Sun, who's still conjunct Mars. This will be when we start to seed into our consciousness, the Sun, what a lot of this Mercury retrograde cycle was about. These are starting to come into the squares with with Pluto especially. And so we're feeling this, it's just conflict. We're just feeling opposition. We're feeling so much opposition and conflict and tension. It's explosive. It's definitely explosive. And as we feel these planets station, it's gonna be so much is gonna be thrown at us this month. Particularly that like many of us we have known was gonna be coming, but a lot of the other people don't. And so we can expect to see a lot of chaos unfold within our systems. Libra and Aries actually rule like war. Mars is the planet of war, and Libra actually rules war itself. Obviously, Capricorn here squaring these planets rules the system. We've talked a lot about how this is really playing off of America's Pluto and how this governs the elites and all that jazz. And so we're feeling it. We're feeling it. And it's almost just like is truth going to be lost to the wayside forever? And I think many of us are going to be feeling this urge to do something. And I guess my advice to you is just we have to act. Mars is here to help us take action. We just need to take it in a grounded fashion. Now, we've talked a lot about how this Pluto square is bringing conflict and struggle and power grabs and all of this like pressure from the Capricornian systems. It also, you guys know I like to talk about the multiple manifestations. We can also actually lean into this energy to ground. Capricorn is an earth sign. Pluto is like deep, the roots. The roots digging deep into the earth. Pluto, down into the underworld. In Capricorn, it's like down into the depths of the foundation. It's going down there in order for us to kind of like see what's going on. These squares to these planets, particularly when the Sun makes its exact square, we're really going to see a lot about what has been going on here. Pluto is the planet of secret agendas. It's the planet of secrets in general. But really what was being done like behind the scenes in order to obtain power over others or power, hold on. Rosebud. Okay. Power in order to like obtain power over others. Now we can lean into the more like higher manifested archetype in order to get the grounding that we need. But in order to kind of like solidify it, we have to come into the missing part of this grand cross. You guys have heard me mention this before. This is a T-square, so it's 3 parts of a cross. We always kind of look to the house that is the missing part of that cross to see like what is missing here that can help bring some sort of balance to these opposing forces. What can we usher in in order to really help us navigate this energy. And that's Cancer, which very much is that like divine mother yin energy that we're already transitioning into, and is very much going to be what helps us navigate the underworld we're about to walk through, the void that we're about to enter. I had pulled some cards before this. I pulled cards at the end, but these ones I just pulled like for myself going into it. And the cards that came through were Mars in Gemini, decision. That really speaks a lot to this energy. This is really going to be having us take action. We just need to make sure we're taking grounded action. It also, the card came through as Venus in Leo, affair. The focus is very much going to be on romance, on like I said before, our intimate relationships. They're going to help us navigate this. And then the last card that came out was organization. And it is not a Virgo card, which is often who is attributed to the organization. It rules the 6th house of organization and responsibilities. It is actually Mercury in Capricorn. And so to me, that really speaks to this Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto helps us make deeply, deeply, deeply detailed plans of action. In Capricorn, they help us to build our own foundation, our own authority, our own power. And so while simultaneously the powers that want to be are harnessing this in order to suppress the people, these placements as well, we can lean into it in order to obtain our power. All of these placements are really asking us to do that. The Mars-Sun conjunction, the Eris square, the Pluto square, even Chiron, it's helping us to obtain the power in those wounds, in the traumas. And then leaning into the missing house of Cancer is really aligning with the feminine knowing, the feminine trusting in the unknown, the feminine intuition to act. Rick Levine, who I was an apprentice with for quite a while, I love his work. He speaks a lot about how the fire signs are the intuitive signs, how water signs like act on emotions, on like emotional triggers that like trigger like an intuitive response or like an instinctual response based upon emotions. While the fire signs and fire in general, it just sparks and it just goes instinctively. And how they really, really, really resonate with the act of acting on instinct and intuition, pure intuition, not muddled by the mind like an air sign would be, or the emotions like a water sign would be. It just acts on pure raw instinct. Now, sometimes that if you're in your like lower manifestations and you're in your like lower chakras, that can manifest as, you know, aggression or just not thinking before you act, being quite reckless or impulsive. But in particularly periods of crisis, which these cardinal signs, Libra, Aries, Capricorn, and Cancer live in, they are the signs of crisis, of the shifting of the seasons, of the change. They thrive off the shift. They do very well. They may not do well on a normal day, but in moments of crisis, in moments where you need to act, they act. And we need to lean into that now, but we need to make sure, like, if you feel like you're about to make a decision, just pause for a second. Just ask you to like make the decision that Mars and the Sun conjunction wants to make, but lean into the Libra archetype that's like, okay, but let's just think about it for a second. Let's just think about it for a second. Let's weigh both sides and try to find a middle. Weigh both sides and try to find a middle, because Mars is probably going to want to just pop off in one direction. It's going to need that Libra Sun to come in and balance it and move it forward in a way that is beneficial to us. So the same time that Mercury retrograde conjuncts the Sun and Mars on the 9th here, really solidifying what this has kind of like all been about to us, and really Pluto is really starting to push forward on that like grabs of power. We have Venus coming into conjunction with the South Node and opposition to the North Node. For those of us who have been doing the work, this is going to give us an opportunity to like level up our value system, really purge and let go and break karmic cycles while simultaneously being like triggered to remember. I really see this as like this square, not negatively. I see this as triggers happening in our reality, in our mundane reality, Virgo, in order to trigger us into remembrance, Alexandria remembrance. Lost knowledge, remembrance. So those of us who have been doing the work, we're going to be like moving to like the next level, like moving up the spiral of like the questioning of our beliefs and coming to like a slightly higher perspective than we were before. And those of us who have not been, like the vast majority of the public, that Venus aligning with the South Node is going to like sink them back in to like all the stuff they didn't process through eclipse season, all of the chaos through all of that eclipse story that's been bringing up for them that they probably, knowing most people, brushed under the rug. That like planet of values is going to very much align with all of those repressed beliefs or expressed beliefs, and it's going to be a major trigger. It's going to be a trigger between like opposing belief systems. We can just kind of see how we have, like, look at all the red lines. You can kind of see how there's just a lot of tension. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of things at odds with each other. But a lot of these things need to happen in order for the truth. Pluto is here really ultimately trying to dig up the truth. We're entering into Scorpio season. That's going to be the focus for us, diving deep into the depths in order to understand what's down there. And Libra is fighting for it. She wants balance. She wants justice. She wants truth. It's interesting. I brought my globe because I was going to show you, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you. Some of you might know this already. I know Sharon does. That the sign of Libra, the scales, used to be the claws of Scorpio. And so it's interesting to me. It kind of shows me that the balance of Libra can't even occur unless we address all that has been repressed. And as all these planets here transit Pandora, enter Scorpio, and then into Sagittarius, which we're going to talk about here in a second, really are digging these up, as are all these planetary triggers coming to like trigger us awake, shake us awake. If you guys think back to like your awakening, like it was dramatic, right? We needed to really be like shaked awake in order to see what was going on, and right now that's happening to the collective. I wish I could say more about like the stuff that's happening with children being the agendas being put forward in regards to children are going to be ramping up heavily, and that usually tends to get people's attention. So I think really keeping an eye on that and people's responses to that here in the coming future is probably going to be where a lot of this tension arises. Also, the mass job loss. By the way, it's looking like my sister-in-law will be losing her job. But I'll talk to you guys over on Discord. Okay, so on the 10th, Saturn stations direct. So not only do we have the planet of power now moving forward in Capricorn, the system, but now we have Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn and Aquarius, stationing direct as well. Saturn is the planet of structure, of definition, of the Saturnian system. It is this planet of authority. both an outside elitist king type authority as well as your own personal authority. That is why when we have our Saturn return, we often step more fully into our power and our authority, and we start to take some of it back from systems we have placed ourselves in. If you are not in your own authority, the system will do it for you. And Saturn governs both. It governs both our sovereignty and our own personal authority, our own structure that we've built for ourselves, the mountain that we're here to kind of climb. Obviously, you want to look and see what house this is in for you, Aquarius. This house is an extreme focus for the past year, especially. We had our great conjunction there at the end of 2020, kicking off 2021, and a lot of what we're seeing play out now. Saturn and Jupiter were both stationed direct about a week apart from each other here in the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius rules the public. Aquarius rules the collective, the human collective. It also rules group think and cult mentality. Fixed ideologies. While Sagittarius rules belief systems and ideologies, philosophical ideologies particularly, it's a mutable sign. So those are always changing. You think of it as the philosopher who's always questioning his last, brilliant observation and constantly building upon it, questioning it, and evolving it. The Aquarius ideals are often rooted in hive group thinks. So it's I believe this because I am part of this organization that believes this. Or they're the total loner as well, the fringe groups as well. Or the fringe lone wolf as well. But it definitely rules fixed ideologies because Aquarius is a fixed sign. So you'll be seeing these start to pop up yet again and very much make themselves be known throughout this time. Saturn going direct is really just giving them the footing. So the Saturnian system, by them, I mean, you guys know what I mean by them. Obviously, I don't have to explain it to you. The authority that they need to push forward, they're waiting for all three of these planets and Mercury to go direct before they really initiate anything that they want to have power, authority, and they want to expand Jupiter. They could do it either way with Mercury retrograde. Sometimes it works to their benefit because the message is so confusing and it's kind of hard to figure out what they're doing because the wires are crossed. So sometimes they'll do things with Mercury retrograde, but really they often wait for big things, or do it on conjunctions, squares, things like that. Okay, on the 14th, the sun will align with Atlantis. You guys have followed me for a while. I've been following this asteroid for quite some time, and it seems to always be prevalent in everything that we're doing. And it's on a 3.3-year orbit. It takes 3.3 years for it to go all the way around. I actually just had my Atlantis return. My Atlantis is here at 4 degrees of Libra. And yet again, this archetype is so extremely loud. I'm actually in a current rabbit hole. So our rabbit hole video will be on the 22nd. It's actually Timothy Leary's birthday on the 22nd, and that is the rabbit hole I'm in. I am in an Atlantis, Timothy Leary, Starseed, this thingy, transhumanist rabbit hole. And yeah, stay tuned for more of that. But it's so loud right now. This archetype is so loud right now. And as you can see, it's the Sun Atlantis conjunction is happening only a couple of degrees away from Pandora. We're uncovering, we're opening the box of all that was hidden. Now, this is both sides of the spectrum. This is the wisdom, the knowledge, the truth, the enlightenment, the spiritual principles, all of the things that are like hidden and repressed that we're like trying to remember and align with, while also all of the dark aspects. A lot of people have a hard time admitting or admitting to themselves that they may have had something to do with some of these like darker timelines. For me, it's not hard because my awakening kind of revolved very heavily around me just realizing that I'm one with all that is. And so if I'm one with all that is, then anything that happened was an aspect of me. And so I did it, you know what I mean? So all of the shady shit that went down, I also did that, and all the good stuff. So there's like way too many rosebuds in there. So I think that the end of Libra season and push into Scorpio season is really going to be, while all of these placements square Pluto. Just this, okay, if we were looking at this in just like Muggle astrology, Sun square Pluto, Mars square Pluto, Mercury square Pluto, all these things square Pluto, that is the revealing of truth. Sun square Pluto, the revealing of deeply hidden and repressed truths. Often shocking, often painful, often dark, but transformational. Transformational truths, often about like the mysteries or the occult or just secrets, hidden agendas, whether it's within people we know or the bigger people up at the top who are the wannabe powers that wanna be. That's just regular Sun square Pluto energy, revealing of deeply seated truths. Now, these truths are obviously revolving around Atlantis. Atlantis is here, and so is Pandora. And so it's like almost like a can of, I'm just envisioning a can of worms. Like from now until, I can't even see past February, because I don't know how that's going to play out. So I'm just going to say from now until America's Pluto return in February, I honestly see the energy. And you guys know me, I don't want to fear monger. I do not want to fear monger. I do not want to be like, I don't want to do all that. You know, I always try to flip the script and be like, oh, it's positive. And I kind of did that. I talked about all the hidden stuff we're going to be able to recover. But I see this as a can of worms. I see this as a can of worms. Good worms, bad worms, worms in the middle. All kinds of worms are going to be flying at us left and right. So much information is going to be coming to light that was being done in the shadows over here while these planets were retrograde, really making sure that they had their plans set in motion. I want to also talk about Pluto in Capricorn is very much the plan, the detailed plan maker. The detailed plan maker. We're very much going to be having things come to fruition in order for us to see our next step forward, when before we were kind of lost. And I know many of us feel super lost right now. And I think we're supposed to. I think it's part of it. Anyway, the sun will exactly conjunct Atlantis on the 14th. Obviously, this is something we've been feeling throughout the month, but this day is going to be significant. Something is probably going to be seeded into our consciousness around that time about our personal, the sun is our personal, egoic consciousness. So we will be having something personally revealed to us about this like karmic patterning reloop that we've been in for, 12,000 years. Or if not longer, if it even went on to other planets before that. But then we're also going to be experiencing this on a collective, because when the sun is transiting a certain sign, that's kind of like the energy that's happening around us. And what is this about? Like I've said before, it is about truth. It is about justice. It is about fairness. It is about what is right, what is in the middle, what is not polarized, what has been repressed, what has been forgotten, what needs to be brought to light. And I think that's going to be a lot of what this is about as we move forward here. This happens right as the sun comes into a trine with Jupiter retrograde. This is actually the last transit to Jupiter before it stations direct. The trine to Jupiter retrograde is actually exact the next day on the 15th. Jupiter is one of astrology's benefics. We have Venus and Jupiter as astrology's benefics. Even when it's happening to like transiting a planet through opposition or a square or it's retrograde, it doesn't really matter. Usually, for the most part, it's here to bestow some sort of like expansion, some sort of benefit, some sort of optimistic energy. I have Jupiter retrograde natally in my chart here in the 8th house in Aries. And so the way it manifests for a native is the focus of the expansion of Jupiter is not so much focused on like the outward world, like obtaining riches and abundance and fame and notoriety and whatever else people try to do. I don't know. That's all stuff I don't vibe with. But when it's retrograde, like it is for me, the focus is on internal expansion. And so this is what Jupiter has been focusing on in whatever area of your life is ruled by Aquarius since he started his retrograde cycle. And he actually stations direct on the 17th, the same day that the sun exactly squares Pluto. So we're having this like push to discover hidden truths and transform after obtaining this truth. Like these truths will force us to have some sort of like complete death and rebirth and shift into something else. Like we will not be the same after October. We're going to be completely different people. Completely different. And then we're heading into eclipse season. Like I don't even know who we're going to be after that. It's going to be a whole different thing. We've been focusing a lot on this internal expansion, and the last aspect that Jupiter makes before it stations direct on the 17th is a trine to the sun on the 15th. So it's working harmoniously with the sun. It's like, I always kind of look at these, particularly when their planets are retrograde, these little meetups as like baton passes. You guys maybe have heard me talk about that before. And it's also conjunct Atlantis on that day as well. So I kind of look at it as like Jupiter. He has been internalizing a lot of inner expansion, and now he's like handing the baton over to the sun to kind of be like, okay, I did all of this. I'm about to station direct. Here it is, integrate it, right? And he does that right before the sun is going to enter Scorpio, where a lot of the integration happens. That's like the sign of integrating it all, transmuting, integrating, alchemizing, going from the scorpion to the eagle to the phoenix, that ascension process, that evolutionary process of consciousness. It very much does happen in the subterranean waters of Scorpio. And Jupiter has done a lot, but it's done a lot in Aquarius. It's done a lot in the mind, and it's like the Uranian mind. So it's not even really like the logical forefront of our mind, like Gemini might be, or Virgo, or even Libra is very logical and rational. This is more out there. Jupiter has been doing work in like the recesses of our Uranian mind, really like shocking and awakening and having us think very much about our place in the future. Aquarius has a huge focus on the future, technology as well, and Jupiter very much rules our beliefs. So we're reconsidering, restructuring, reconfiguring our beliefs around the future, around the collective, around the groups we are connected to, and around technology in general, which I've touched heavily on, so I'm not going to right now. So Venus, those aren't, we're going to skip that day. It's not too important. Maybe I'll do a post about it. Okay, so on the 17th, I talked about that is when the sun finally makes its exact square with Pluto. Jupiter stations direct, and the sun, Atlantis, and Arcturus all conjunct. And so if this wasn't a key element of what Atlantis was already bringing up for you around this time, this is definitely what's going to come to the forefront, is that concept of technology. There are two starseed points that I associate very heavily with technological advancements and the technological timeline, and in its polarized version, transhumanism. Arcturus is one of them, and the other one is Alpha Centauri, which I don't think we're going to dive into here tonight, but we can touch on at another point in time. And this conjunction will be happening perfectly aligned with Arcturus. I know I need to check my tech usage and the getting sucked in and the feeding of my energy to outside sources through tech. You guys know I can't stand it. I didn't even get an iPhone until 2012. And I didn't even get a computer until I decided I was going to be an astrologer. I had no use for it. I went to the computer lab when I was in college. I didn't even get a computer because computers were hard. I was like, no, I don't want to do this. So the focus, Jupiter stationing direct, handing the baton to the sun as the sun squares Pluto, conjunct Arcturus. You see it in multiple ways. You see Jupiter here in the sign of technology doing a bunch of internal work and really shifting their beliefs around this in regards to not only that's why it's so hot. My fan fell over. Not only around the collective, but around our place in the collective, and really forcing the sun to integrate this knowledge, integrate this recovered truth, and transform in order to find a balance. You guys hear me talk about tech not being bad. I'm using it right now to talk to you guys. And so the focus around this ending of Libra, while it transits Arcturus, conjunct Atlantis, which we all know probably had a very heavy technological aspect to its fall, it's going to ask us to look at this. These planets stationing direct in Aquarius is also going to ask us to look at this. Uranus in general in Taurus right now is asking us to look at this. Technology is going to be a key aspect moving forward. And I think that this is a key point in time around the 17th. Yeah, around the 17th. In order to ask yourself, what do I need? That's right before a full moon. It's right before a full moon where, it's asking us to let go. We're having a culmination of energy. Let's get to that full moon. Oh, wait, we have to do the 18th first. Okay. Well, it's right before a full moon where we're going to be asked to let go. We're going to have energy culminate and we're going to be asked to let go and, purge and transmute some things that, we had held on to before. And I think much of what might be coming up for many of us around this time might be our connection to technology. I need to have some sort of system to where I don't get just sucked into scrolling all the time. And then on the 18th, Mercury stations direct at 10 degrees of Libra, opposite Chiron. So super aligned with these wounds that have been so triggered and activated through all of these conflicting squares all month. And Mars trines Jupiter. So you guys remember earlier how I said that Jupiter is our benefic, and usually he comes to like bring so much benefit and harmony and optimism and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, that's true. But sometimes he just comes to blow shit up. And when I was making this chart, there were lots of things that were coming to me as I was reading these transits, and I'm like, oh, I can see how I can flip this. Oh, I can see how I can like transmute this or use this for my benefit, you know? And when I saw the Mars trining Jupiter right before it squares Pluto, okay, so Mars is pretty much in a square to Pluto and a trine to Jupiter, okay? Mars square Pluto is like the most conflicting, volatile energy. It might be like the most like conflicting and volatile energy. Maybe like Jupiter square Saturn is probably really rough too. That's really, really, really rough. But Mars square Pluto is extremely volatile. Power struggles between the individual and systems of power. Between anyone in our reality, we are going to be just really feeling it around that time. While simultaneously, it's trining Jupiter. Jupiter just literally blows things up. So it's like really around when Jupiter and Mercury station direct on the 18th. Obviously, I said that earlier that it is the same day that the government is supposed to run out of money and shut down. It's like that fire. That Mars-Sun conjunction that we've been feeling all month, remember I was telling you, it's making us anxious and impulsive and aggressive. It's like that fire that has been burning inside of us is going to be like doused by gasoline. Like I feel like Jupiter is just going to come. It's like, okay, maybe it'll be like wind. Maybe it'll be like... and it gives it so much air. It's in Aquarius. These are actually both in air signs. Yeah, I'm seeing it as wind. It's like the fire that has been burning in maybe like just our little campsite. The wind is going to come and just ignite it and turn it into like an eruption of fire and air. Like a fire tornado. Oh my God. Okay, maybe I'm getting a little carried away. All I'm saying is be mindful. Think around this time, Allie said fire tornado. Do not pop off. Unless you're going to like pop off and make it count. Like if you're about to pop off and make it count somewhere, take a couple of deep breaths, try to find your center and do it. Take the action that you need in order to fight for what's right. A lot of us might be fighting to keep our jobs around that time or, stand for what's right when it comes to any sort of like authoritarian power coming in order to, you know, push itself on us. So if you're called to action, do not be like afraid of the fire tornado and you won't not be able to take action. You will. All I'm saying is think and breathe before, because this and this and this, like, yeah, I'm just seeing fire tornado. Sorry, I don't know, dude. I know that's not the most eloquent interpretation of the sky, but really, yeah, all I'm seeing is, like, we are going to be feeling it. All of these planets that have been kind of, like, more introspective are now pushing forward. Yes, that is going to give this system. These two signs rule the system. They rule Capricorn, they rule the system. They rule this, they rule systems and organizations. So yes, they will be getting some of this back too, but so are we. We are going to be wanting to expand. We are going to be wanting to reclaim our authority. We are going to be wanting to align with this power that we can feel. And I don't think a lot of us are going to back down. Just be smart with it. Be smart with it. This is all leading us into the Aries moon, which is on the 20th. Okay, so the Aries full moon actually falls, I'm not going to do the exact time, I'm just going to tell you. It falls on the 20th at 7:56 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at 27 degrees. I'll just do it. I need to see it. 7:56 p.m. a.m. Okay. Hello. Oh, on the 20th. Okay, there we go. At 27 degrees of Aries. Literally perfectly conjunct the Andromeda vertex, the black hole at the Andromeda galaxy. The sun is here at 27 degrees, exactly conjunct Pandora, only a couple of degrees away from Atlantis. We are going to dive heavily into this in our video. We're going to dive very heavily into this for the video, which is actually going to be on the 19th. Our full moon live stream is going to be on the 19th. On this day, not only do we have the full moon aligning perfectly with the Andromeda vertex and Pandora, making other aspects as well that we're not going to get into here now. We also have Venus coming into an exact alignment with the great attractor. So I am not going to dive too far into this now. I will dive, soft disclosure, just fire towards Sharon says, fire tornado, next summer's blockbuster, soft disclosure, disaster film. Oh God. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to dive into the great attractor really quick. Okay, I'm not going to read this. I'm going to post this on Discord. This is the only one here that is by an astrologer. Okay, yeah, that was working. What am I doing here? Okay. I'm going to go into these other things here for a second. But I'm going to post this over on Discord. The great attractor is at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. Look and see if you have any placements, any planets near 14 degrees of Sagittarius or Gemini. If you do, it is aligned with a great attractor. So I talk a lot. Okay, I need to come over so I can see you guys for a second. Whatever, I'll just talk. Okay, so I have been diving into asteroids since the 8/8 moon. I've been diving into asteroids for a while, but on the 8/8 moon, I noticed that one of the fates, so there are 3 asteroids that are associated with the 3 fates in mythology. And one of my asteroid fates aligns with where the sun is on 8/8 every year, where the sun is on the so-called Lion's Gate. And at that point, I realized, man, and it was the fate that cuts the wire, the fate that puts things to death, the fate that like ends things. And I was like, much of what my mission here is to like end these things that have lived their life. And one of the focuses very much is on that 8/8. And so then I started diving into where the other 2 fates are. And I have one, of course, aligned with the supergalactic center. So I have the supergalactic center, the 8/8 sun, and then my 3rd fate actually aligns with a great attractor. And so does my Saturn. I've dove into this concept before in this area of space. And I knew all of these things, but like also didn't exactly put them together. You guys hear me talk a lot about the supergalactic center, which, hold on. You guys hear me talk about the supergalactic center, which is right here in this graphic, which I did not make any of these graphics, and the slides I'm about to show you were like a free download on Google. So I hope there's no like weird copyright things or whatever. But where it says Virgo cluster, that is the 27 or 100 more, we're not really sure, galaxies that rotate around the supergalactic center. And you guys hear me talk about the supergalactic center. Well, we have this area of the sky that sits at 14 degrees of Sagittarius, which is what is known as the great attractor. It actually sits kind of like here in the middle in that like darker spot between Centaurus cluster and the Norma cluster, that like little dark spot there. And it's what holds us all together, our larger cosmic logos. So if you look here, you'll see that the great attractor is a gravitational anomaly. They do not really know what it is. I talk a lot about how most astronomers think that it is a very, very, very dense area of dark matter, of dark energy, but everything is pretty much being pulled towards it. It's the central gravitational point for the Alchemy supercluster, which houses, like, I've seen some things I read said 1 billion galaxies rotate or are being pulled towards the great attractor, and then other things said like 100,000. It's kind of hard to really figure out exactly how many, because most astronomy, like, this is like theoretical. A lot of this stuff is theoretical, but we definitely know that there is this anomaly in space that everything is being pulled towards. They know it is not a black hole, but they're not exactly sure what it is. This article, which I'm going to post over on Discord, talks about how and a lot of like people say that this could possibly be God, this great attractor, and this is where everything is returning back to source and which it came. And this talks about how we're actually not going to be sucked into the great attractor, and the reason why is because of dark energy. So dark energy is what is making our universe continue to expand. So like billions or hundreds of millions or hundreds of thousands, depending on who you want to talk to, galaxies are all being pulled towards the great attractor. And many of them will be sucked into whatever it is. It bends light. It's a total unknown anomaly. People assume it is a very dense energy of dark matter, dark energy. But we don't really know what it is. But apparently we will not be sucked into it because of dark energy. So dark energy is making our universe expand, continue to expand, and continue to expand. And because of that expansion, we will eventually be torn apart from this like cosmic logos that is all being like sucked into the great attractor. I can show you what this looks like. So this is kind of like a picture of all of the galaxies merged together. This is what a lot of the astrophysicists use, is this image right here. There's a couple other depictions. Obviously, these are all computer generated, but all of these super galaxies are being merged into the thing. But eventually, we're all going to break apart, and the only thing that is going to stay together are galaxies and solar systems. Dark matter cannot break up galaxies or solar systems, but it can break up super logoses, like super clusters. We will stay within our Virgo cluster. So we will stay within the galaxies that are orbiting around the super galactic center, which is in Libra, which if you've followed me for a while, you've heard me talk a lot about. And we will eventually move away from this point. But it is super right now in our lifetime, here in our reality as human beings who only live 100 years, it is actually the strongest gravitational point in our sky. So I often say that is the super galactic center, and that is not true. This is where we are here. And this is what we're all connected to, that's connected to the great attractor. So this is an anomalous part in our sky. It is literally the unknown. We do not understand it, yet we are all gravitating towards it. I'm going to post all of these things over on Discord. I'm going to go back over here for a second. You're going to be all right. Your Pluto is in Sag at 14 degrees. Yeah, dude, you're heavily connected to this. Hey, my Saturn is there. This is part of like my karmic like debt. I'm so hot, you guys. Okay, hold on. Okay, so I'm going to go back to these slides. You guys can take screenshots. I'm not going to read all of these. LOL, and the image of the man and female with caption, great attractor. They sure are. That's funny. So it's an anomaly. We don't understand it. You guys can take screenshots and read these. I'm not going to dive too much into it. I do want to just get into the pop culture references. So it was discovered in 1986, and it was discovered by a group of astronomers known as the Seven Samurai, which sounds super occulty to me, especially the number 7 is used quite a lot. 7 sages, 7 mages, 7, all of that jazz. The great attractor is huge. It's like made up of just like densely dense gravitational pull that they do not understand. And the best guess, most people jive with the idea of it as dark matter, dark energy, which what mystics call ether. It's also what they're studying at CERN. The great attractor in fiction. So the great attractor is an element of Stephen Baxter's sequence of novels. In the motion picture Men in Black, Will Smith accidentally sends a small shiny object flying and bouncing around Men in Black headquarters, causing a commotion. Tommy Lee Jones explains to him that it was a gift from the great attractor, who thought it was funny as hell. Weird. And then this series, Discworld, the comic representation of death of the universe, is known as the great attractor. It's gobbling up galaxies, and we don't know what's on the other side of that, but maybe it's freedom or maybe it's destruction. Who knows? But it's definitely unknown, and it's definitely part of our as above, and so therefore it is part of our there below, here below. Those are the cards I pulled. Okay, so why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because on the 14th, Venus comes into alignment with the great attractor. All of these planets will eventually make it there during Sagittarius season, but Venus is the first one there. She actually will exactly align with the galactic center on the 2nd of November. So the focus is very much on the heart, our heart space, aligning with this like source of creation. If you guys remember, I had just said that the universe is expanding because of dark energy. It is the source of creation. It's creating the expansion. It's creating the evolution of the universe. Supposedly, this area of the sky is a very dense concentration of that dark matter, dark energy, which the elites really want to know about. The world's most expensive science experiment, CERN, this is what they're focusing on, this right here. It's obviously important. They obviously want us to fear it like it's going to gobble us up, but they're not too afraid to try to create it underground. You know, there's something to this here. There's something here, something that needs to be unlocked, something that needs to be discovered. It's definitely what I am focusing on over the coming months. And this alignment really starts around the 20th on that moon, the same day as our moon. As our full moon in Aries. The sun sits opposite the Andromeda vertex. The moon aligns with the Andromeda vertex. So we already have that black hole energy coming through. And it's a black hole other than ours. Okay, so we have our sun revolving around the galactic center. That's the Milky Way's black hole. Then we have a separate galaxy that is Andromeda that is going to be very much in play during this moon, that is all about the self and the partner. We're literally going to have the Milky Way's partner in alignment with this moon. Both of these points, the Milky Way and Andromeda, rotate around the supergalactic center. And then the supergalactic center, which is a huge cluster of galaxies, rotates along with other super clusters around the great attractor. So if there is the strongest point in our sky, it's this right here. It's also the most anomalous. We understand that the supergalactic center is a black hole. We know that Sagittarius A, the galactic center, is a black hole. We don't know what this is. The elites might, the people at CERN might, they might be, have a better idea than we do, but right now, all we can kind of go off of is what the scientists tell us. And they tell us that they don't know. They tell us they don't know. It's weird. It's uncontrollable. It's, astrologically speaking, very focused on the acquisition of knowledge. All black holes and the great attractor are very much focused on the acquisition of knowledge. Being here in Sagittarius, the sign that governs religion, the sign that governs our belief systems and philosophical exploration, whether it be through religions or through philosophy. I find it interesting that the great attractor falls right smack dab in the middle of Sagittarius. While we're pondering philosophy or esoteric traditions or religion or whatever it may be, and we're asking all these questions and we're trying to understand the unknown, this is probably what we're trying to understand. This is probably why that area is so focused on questioning and trying to tap into something beyond the veil. And as our sun enters into Scorpio here in the coming days, on the 22nd, the focus is very much going to be on that other side of the veil, with both Venus literally aligned with what we do not understand. And we're feeling it more in the heart space. I think the mind can't fathom it, but the heart can remember. The heart can align. The heart can understand. The heart can harness and really magnify the magnetic field that it emits by almost radiating with this source of creation. If this area of the sky that is so dense with this gravitational energy is dark matter and dark energy, what is causing the universe to expand and evolve and grow, then it really is that force of creation. Is that why CERN is trying to understand it, to really hone in on that Higgs boson, to really hone in on that source of manifestation? Is our heart literally going to be aligned with this source of manifestation on the 20th, on the Aries full moon? I think it might be. And I think we really are going to be funneling in a lot of just pure potential for manifestation. You guys know I tend to manifest on new moons, culminate and release on full moons. Manifest on new moons, culminate and release on full moons. That being said, because of this alignment, aligning with that full moon, I think that moon, that lunation, that full moon would be a really great moon for manifestation. Particularly look and see what house does Sagittarius rule in your chart. If you look and see, Venus will actually be trining the moon. Not exact, it's actually more trining Hecate, the planet of magic itself, but close enough to can be considered trining the moon itself, but really working more with the magical realm, the other side of the veil, what is unseen, what is unknown, harnessing it and turning it into something, creating it into something. But it definitely has to come from a heart-centered space. That is the only archetype that's able to align with this point right now. And so it definitely has to be coming from that centered space of the heart. Let me see. Okay. Which is going to be hard for us to do because of all the other stuff happening right now. So while, the heart is going to be aligned with the great attractor and we can be lining with the source of creation and all that jazz, we're going to want to be setting people on fire. Okay. Mars comes into its exact square with Pluto the next day. So we already had the sun square Pluto, and that was conflicting. It really was illuminating. It really is extremely illuminating and showing of so much of what was hidden. Really, a lot of truth comes through. But Mars coming into that square, that is when like things are going to get heated. We are, it's going to be rough. So definitely, I'm going to try to find some sort of like meditation to maybe link along the video that can get us in some sort of like, Sharon, I know you know a lot about like the heart math and the heart centering stuff. Maybe we can find something that'll really help us to like get in our body, get grounded, get aligned, really like expand the heart space. Those of you who are part of my abundance tier, I actually sent you a bunch of goodies this month that will help with that. It is all focused on the heart expansion, and this divine partnership dynamic, either within the self, between our masculine and feminine counterparts, or with another. And I'm going to post about that, the things that I sent, in Discord tomorrow. I'll post a little description. But that will really help to do on this moon. So Mars square Pluto on the 21st, right before the sun enters Scorpio on the 22nd. The energy is getting extremely intense and volatile. I mean, I don't even know how to interpret all this. All I know is like a word of caution as we transit this. Right as Mars is squaring Pluto, you see Mars here at 24 degrees, squaring Pluto at 24 degrees. Like, literally, I can feel the tension in my chest as I wrote this. I can feel the tension in my chest and, like, the conflicting desires and the, like, angst and frustration and the power struggle. I can feel it. I really do feel it very strongly in my chest. And if you notice, this is all happening to Pluto as Pluto stations direct and continues on towards America's Pluto. These are like very important aspects to this cycle. And as you can see, Mars is conjunct Atlantis as it does this 4 degrees away from Pandora, which is 1 degree away from the sun. Like, this is intense. This is intense, and it's so intense, like, that it spans timelines. And I feel like I've been saying this a lot, but like, Atlantis has been pivotal in so much that is going on. And I'm not sure if it's because like a 3.3 year cycle is just like the right amount of rotation in order to kind of always be involved in things, or if they named it this on purpose because they knew. I don't know. I don't know why it's always involved, but it's here and it's super involved and it's super prevalent. We are feeling this like fiery rage because we're feeling the deja vu and we're feeling all of the stuff bubbling to the surface that was hidden. We're going to be on edge. We're definitely going to be on edge, and we're going to need to be taking action. And like, literally, even if you don't want to take action, squares create conflict that requires you to take action. So even if you want to be like Libra, indecisive, like, oh, I don't know yet, I'm just going to wait. Like, we're not going to be able to wait. This kind of energy just like triggers things into happening, and then you have to clean up the pieces. You have to take a redirection. Squares are not bad. These energies are not bad. These things need to happen. And right now this needs to kind of like trigger the like warrior in us, the like hero archetype within that wants to fight for what is true and right. And I'm not saying to go and burn a building down, which this energy is going to want to. Really, Mars square Pluto is going to want to burn a building down. I'm not saying to go full blown crazy out there. We need to be smart, and we need to be balanced, and we need to be harmonious in the decisions that we make. That is why Libra is here, in order to help us do this. If this Mars was over here in Aries square Pluto, now there'd be literally no hope for us. We would just take the action. We would think later, and we would clean up the pieces of whatever destruction was left. But it's in Libra. And Libra is there to be like, okay, we need to have a rhyme or reason to this. This needs to be fair. This needs to be just. This needs to be even democratic. It needs to be for the greater good, but it needs to be on the side of truth and justice. And if I need to take that sword of justice and slice some things that aren't needing to be there anymore, like cut some cords, break some things, make some decisions, change my trajectory, cut things loose, and point that sword towards something new, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And that's kind of where we're at. You're not going to really have a choice. These things don't really give you a choice. And it might be chaotic because this is all in cardinal signs and it has Pluto and Mars. It's going to be a shit show. It's going to be a shit show. But it's going to be a shit show that you look back on and go, oh, I see why that shit show went down, because that forced me to take this action, to make this plan, to do this, and now I'm here and I'm in a better place. I'm in a more balanced place. Yeah. I'm sorry if I'm freaking you guys out, but the month is pretty intense. I don't really know. And then the sun enters Scorpio, and if it wasn't intense already, it'll be intense then, because Scorpio is intense as fuck. But that'll be how Scorpio thrives in it. They thrive in it. We need Scorpio season to come right now during all these Pluto squares and all this stuff, because Scorpio's the only one who could be like, all right, let's just do this. Let's just navigate this chaos. Let's make the decisions we need to make on instinct that's aligned with like deeply seated emotions. Now, those can be resentment, those can be jealousy, those can be envy, those can be all kinds of other things that are scorpionic in nature, but it can just be for the sake of alchemy. Scorpio just wants to alchemize. Scorpio just wants to integrate. Scorpio just wants to understand. And it's not afraid to dive into the chaos to make sense of it, to make sense of the mysteries, to make sense of the unknown. This is on the 23rd or the 22nd when Mars enters Scorpio. When the sun enters Scorpio, right before Mars conjuncts Atlantis on the 23rd. So it's almost like the sun starts to enter into the sign of the mysteries, of the detective, of understanding all that is hidden, of the clues and making sense of things, right as the sun and then later Mercury are going to transit Atlantis and then Pandora. So it's almost like the detective is on call now. He's put on his little magnifying glass or his monocle. Do detectives use magnifying glass? They could have a monocle and a pipe. I picture him with a monocle, pipe, and a magnifying glass. I'm just kidding. Anyway, you're going to need it all in order to make sense of it. So if you want to use a monocle and then a magnifying glass, like go for it. You might need it. But we're going to be making sense of all the things that are coming through. And Scorpio is going to help us do that. And the connection to the other side of the veil, the other side of our reality. So that brings me to the 26th, when Mars will finally oppose the Andromeda vertex and Venus will square Neptune. So I mentioned earlier that towards the end of the month, we're definitely going to be entering into a realm that doesn't make sense. This Venus square Neptune is going to be bringing a lot, Neptune retrograde is still kind of shattering illusions. If this was Venus square Neptune, it would definitely be like triggering illusions and delusions and confusion, probably around relationships and beliefs, because it's over here in Sag, or even travel. Travel is going to be so messed with a lot this month and next month as we enter Sagittarius season, but more on that later. But Neptune is retrograde, so it's still in the business of shattering illusions. So don't be shocked if towards the end of the month, the 26th, the 27th, A whole new set of illusions are shattered before you, which probably are going to revolve around our relationships, because we have Mars opposite the Andromeda vertex on the 27th, and then Atlantis opposing the Andromeda vertex on the 28th. No, on the 27th. Mars opposite on the 26th, Atlantis opposite on the 27th. So the things that are going to be coming up in our relationships around that time are going to be like karmic patternings that probably stem back to other lifetimes. So if you're feeling a sort of like deja vu type of thing, or something comes up that you guys have been experiencing multiple times, think back and be like, okay, this is a chance. This is a chance for me to truly move past this. I find it interesting that as that's happening, Pandora moves into Scorpio. So it's almost like when Mars and Atlantis and freaking Mercury all make it into into Scorpio, they're all going to transit over Pandora in the sign of like the occultist. Like Scorpio rules the occult, he rules the mysteries, astrology, all things hidden, all things unknown, all things hard to grasp. And I think that being in Scorpio when all these planets transited are going to help us to actually make sense of it. Scorpio, my Mercury is conjunct Pluto in Scorpio in the 3rd house of the mind. It's literally one of my favorite placements. I credit that placement, Mercury conjunct Pluto in Scorpio, in the 3rd house of the mind, as to why I can do this, why I can look at all this crazy shit and attempt to make sense of it. I'm not sure I always do. So anyway, focus of relationships definitely towards the end of the month. And then Venus sextiles Jupiter on the 28th. So that is the two benefics coming into a harmonious aspect that will require work in order to retrieve the benefit that it is here to bestow upon us. And it's both of them working together. It's Venus and Jupiter, astrology's two benefics coming into a sextile. So do the work around this time. Whatever comes up, whatever's being triggered, whatever's asking you to break free, that full moon on the 20th is going to be extremely illuminating. Once that comes, you might be like, I don't know. After the full moon, you're going to be like, oh, I know. And I'm ready to bring that sort of justice, make some cuts, and move on into Scorpio season. I'm ready for the death. I'm ready for the rebirth. I'm ready for the integration. And I really kind of like recommend that you actually kind of try to do that, because the month ends with like a huge karmic test. Okay, so we have on the 30th, our sun will come into his exact square with Saturn. So our sun will now be in Scorpio, 7 degrees of Scorpio, and it will come into a square with Saturn, who just went direct at 7 degrees of Aquarius. The same day that Mars enters its ancient home sign. So Mars is usually credited for ruling, Aries. And Pluto for ruling Scorpio. But before Pluto was discovered, Mars was also the ruler of Scorpio. So it's like a co-rulership between Mars and Pluto. So Mars is actually quite happy here. But it brings that intensity. It really brings that like deep intensity to Scorpio. Both Mars and Pluto combined. That's why it's so intense. So Mars enters Scorpio the same time that the sun here at 7 degrees comes into a square with Saturn. Not only is our shadow and the shadow of our whole collective going to be triggered, but we are going to be dealing with a lot of karmic conflict, a lot of karmic conflict. Look and see what house Scorpio and Aquarius rule in your chart. This is where you're really going to be feeling that conflict, but really it's going to be around Saturn. Saturn is now direct in Aquarius, the sign of the collective. So Saturn's structure and authority pushing down on the collective, while simultaneously everybody has become a detective and is diving deep into the truth, trying to understand. The focus was really on like the importance of the truth, the importance of justice and fairness, and like trying to like intellectualize it in Libra season. But once all these planets transit into Scorpio, that's when we're like, okay, the quest is on. I am going to discover what the truth is, and I'm going to dive so very deep until nothing is left and I will totally understand it all. And we're going to turn into little crazy people trying to understand, and we're going to be like trying to understand all of what Saturn is implementing, and it's going to be happening fast, and it's going to be happening in a very chaotic way. Yeah. Which brings me to October 31st, which is Halloween or Samhain, depending on what you want to call it. And on here on the calendar, I just wrote Samhain and the thinning of the veil. This is supposed to be the time of year when the veil is at its thinnest. And we can very much feel that around this time, and the sun on the day of Samhain is going to be square Saturn. So like the karmic test, and a lot of it could be coming through like our ancestral line as well around this time. We might be having to like not even deal with our own karma that we accrued either in this life or past, but also the generational ones as well. And I find it is interesting that on this day, Lilith will begin to enter the constellation of Orion, which starts around 11 degrees of Gemini and continues on until the end of Gemini. And Lilith will enter that on Halloween. Lilith very much aligns with the like darker, feminine, repressed archetype that has been shunned. And Gemini and Orion very much represent that like split in consciousness, that like polarization that caused the shunning to begin with in the first place. Like, you are not on this side, you are bad, you are not equal to, you need to be pushed to the shadows. And Lilith is like, well, now welcome to the shadows. This is my time, bitches. It's October 31st. We're in the deepest part of the year. Obviously, it's not the darkest part. The darkest part will be around the winter solstice. That's the peak of darkness. But it is that like liminal space in the darker months where we are starting to connect to that which sits beyond the veil. And Lilith sits beyond the veil. She is pushed so far back that she's on the other side, and then we only get reflections and mirrors of her manifestations here, which manifest as shadows. They manifest as the lower archetypes, because she's not able to embody her fuller archetype because she is pushed under the rug. And so definitely we'll be seeing a lot of the rebellious Lilith rising as we enter these months, and as we start to really align with the Scorpio energy. So that's the month, guys. I know I probably freaked everybody out. It's just to be crazy. I just want everybody to just breathe. I just want you to know that there's like so much tension and conflict coming from every direction that like think, yes, we're going to have to take action. We're not going to be able to get out of this month without taking action. Action will be required of us. But we need to make sure that we're taking aligned action and we're not feeding into the like lower Martian archetypes of like fear and aggression and war and conflict. We have to use that like fire that's being ignited within us for truth and justice in a proper aligned way. And I am saying this all to you, and I will probably do the opposite, and then I'll probably have to like post about how I didn't listen to myself. So, you know, you do you. Okay, so it's getting kind of late. It's almost 11:11. I do have a couple of cards that I pulled for us that I'm just going to dive into here, and then we'll call it a night. You guys can come back and watch this later. This is the monthly one. Okay, so first I pulled 2 cards. I pulled an archetype card. I was like, give us an archetype. Like, what is coming through right now that we can really, really benefit from working on? And the archetype was the medallion that we'll get into here in a second. And then I pulled a card from my astrology deck, and I was like, okay, what do we need to really lean into? What did I maybe not touch on too much in my whole spiel that I need to like really, really, really lean into now? And the card that came out was yin. It is intuition, trust, patience, spirituality, and receptivity. And I immediately realized that we're going to be in kind of like a paradox. Okay, so it's going to feel like this shift in energy because all of these planets are shifting from retrograde to direct. So we're going to have this like pull of like needing to take action, wanting to make plans, wanting to move, wanting to build, wanting to expand. But we're entering in, we've been at the equinox point, we're entering into the darker half of the year, the yin half of the year, the part of the year where we're supposed to retreat inward, we're supposed to really reflect. We've been doing that a lot already because of the retrograde, so it almost feels like we're moving out of that, and we are on a certain level. Can you stop eating things off the floor? Thank you. Go lay down. I'm almost done. And yes, we are on a certain level, moving out of that more internal process and expanding more outward. But simultaneously, like the seasons are shifting us inward. And so really, in order to navigate a lot of, especially the Sun-Mars conjunction, these like heavy masculine aspects, Mars square Pluto, the Sun square Pluto, Mars conjunct the Sun. These are very, very masculine, fiery, airy aspects, manifestations, astrological manifestations. In order to navigate this effectively, we're going to have to very much lean into this more feminine aspect, this more yin aspect, this more aligned with that great attractor, with maybe even the Andromeda vertex, these sources of like the feminine womb space. So I'm going to go ahead and read this out of the book because it was just really beautiful. So it says, yin is the energy of the divine feminine, one half of creation. This is the subterranean, subconscious realm of conception. Feelings and ideas are nurtured in this womb-like space with no pressure to do, only to be. Yin is patient and present, open and trusting. It's the unconfined, unspoken, unexpressed world of dreams and spirit. Here lie the roots beneath the tree in the dark night that births day's light. It's where anything is possible. Being an inward, ethereal force is linked with the elements of water and earth. As a result, all water and earth signs within the zodiac are considered yin. Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces. Keep in mind that this is distilled femininity and makes no reference to physical sexes. Yin energy lives within both male and female bodies. Keywords: femininity, spirituality, receptivity, going inward, being, trust, patience, and passive. get into the body. Yes, Sharon. And then this is the omen for this card. Allow space for stillness. Like I was talking about, Libra, really leaning into that 0 point, being the pillar that balanced the scales. You have to be still in order to do that. We're really leaning into the like heart space as well. Finding the still point in the heart, I believe, is what's going to help us navigate this month. Allow space for stillness. Release any pressure to perform or express. Travel inward. Nurture your private world. Go for a gentle walk in nature. Sit for a warm cup of tea or take an afternoon nap. Anything that supports you in deep presence with self. You don't need to look inside yourself for definition. No, you don't need to look outside yourself for definition or validation. Trust in the moment. Marinate in this magical space where anything is possible. As a long-term practice, consider your balance between yin and yang. This is so Libra season. Consider your energy, your balance between yin and yang, your spiritual life and your physical life. Both vital energies ebb and flow within as two sides of creation. Don't you feel a harmonious balance? Yes, Sharon. Okay, I'm going to come back to this medallion because they were talking about walk in nature, so I'm just going to cover these other two cards here really quick. What's the last one? Okay, yeah. So the top ones, so I was like, this is the card deck I always ask to just give it to me straight. Just be blunt and honest and give it to me straight. And these are the cards that came out. Go outside and do shit. It's been proven all over the place that trees and nature and fresh air and all that shit help fight depression, anxiety, addiction, and pretty much anything else that might ail you. Find some place to put your feet in the grass or the dirt or the water or anywhere that's not concrete. A 5-minute nature break can reduce the amount of shitty thoughts in your brain drastically as fuck. And then the other one says, shit you don't have time for. Other people's shit, crazy shit, bullshit, stupid shit, fake shit, shit that has nothing to do with you. Remember when I talked about the sword coming to like cut things away? This is what I'm talking about. And it's going to be focused a lot around that like full moon. Once you drop that kind of bullshitty shit, you'll have a whole lot more hours in the day to do awesome shit. Find shit to do that vibes with your soul. Shit that has no negative consequences. Shit that makes you say, oh, hell yes. Maybe even do some shit that benefits the world in some way. You have time for the fuck yeah shit. Okay, so the medallion. I find this card super interesting. I'm going to tell you after I read it why. The medallion. I love those cards too. I got them at like Barnes and Noble. They're really cool. I just give it to me straight. What do I need to hear? Those are my what do I need to hear cards. Okay, the medallion. The amulet, the talisman, the heirloom. And keep this in mind as we're entering into Scorpio season, as we're entering into the other side of the veil, the like connection to like our ancestors and those that have passed and things like that. The passing on of sacred objects is an ancient ritual within families, between lovers, and in tribes across the globe. We gift jewels, treasures, keepsakes, and mementos of all kinds, some of great material value, others that hold emotional resonance, and still others with both. And yet these gifts are bestowed upon us. It is important to recognize that they may bind us to an unspoken agreement or promise. When the medallion card appears, be aware how the objects you hold dear may be embedded with unconscious energy or expectations. Materials hold consciousness, and it's time to reconcile the vibration of the objects around you. What do you covet and collect? Why? Is there an object you've held on for years that you are ready to release? Perhaps it is time to reach for the medallion that aligns with your deepest values. Imagine you and your family, school, or social group had a crest, an emblem, or amulet, what would it be? Draw it. Do you believe that objects contain supernatural properties? When you have experienced this to be true? When this archetype is evolved, it is upholding tradition, protecting, and honoring. When it is in its lower archetype, it is burdensome inheritance or habituation. It says to go deeper, you can look at ancient Egyptian scarab amulets. So the reason why this card was so interesting to me is that was actually like a really key part of my awakening, was like my realization that like all these rings I used to wear that were like my mom's from like a really long time ago, like silver rings with like different gems in them, and like different things that I used to like have on me all the time. I got like all these messages coming through that like they had like karma connected to them. They had like energy connected to them. They had just, yeah, I guess karma would be the best word. And that like I was almost like repeating it because I was like connected to this object that like wasn't mine. And so I kind of like freaked out and like took off all my jewelry, and I still don't really wear jewelry unless I made it and it has a certain like intention behind it. That's pretty much all I wear. And it was because of that period where a lot of those things were coming through for me. They're all in my drawer. I didn't get rid of them, but I don't wear them anymore. And so during this time, particularly around Samhain, when the focus is always very much on our ancestors, it could also be on like cutting karmic ties that we have like inherited and picked up from said ancestors. And a lot of that can be done through like the physical removing or just like placing somewhere else of objects. Like if they're in like like significant places in your home, you can move them to like the garage or a little chest. I have a little chest in my closet where I put everything. But yeah, that could be a really key thing that to help you navigate this month is like letting go and releasing and like cutting ties. A lot of these things that we may be repeating might not even be ours. Like they're our moms or our grandmothers or whoever. And like symbolically, these things are imbued into objects. It makes me even think of like the Horcrux in Harry Potter and how like his soul was put in objects. I don't know why I thought of that. But anyway, we could be symbolically working through a lot of these like traumatic core wounds that we're processing on a personal level right now, that span time and space, that our bloodlines have been playing out from eternity by perhaps maybe working with some of these objects in our reality, whether it's like through ritual or through purging or whatever it may be. I don't know. I'll come up with more ideas as we head into the month. But I appreciate you guys so much. Oh, Janelle says, yes, when I moved here, I don't have anything in my house. Really, I didn't want past stuff. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff. I have my sun conjunct my south node in the second house, in whole sign, in the second house of like possessions and like things. Like I have my baby blanket. It's 34 years old. I came home in the hospital with it, and I'm not getting rid of that thing ever in my life. I don't care what's connected to it. It's gonna die with me, get buried with me, or cremated with me. I don't freaking care. But there are other things that I can work through and with and stuff. And I definitely, things hold sentimental value to me. I keep lots of little like things and little notes and little things, all kinds of little things. Yeah, Sharon, she says I love old things. Me too. I know. So I'm definitely talking to myself here, but cleaning, purging during Scorpio season, letting go of a lot of stuff is probably going to be ideal. And you don't need to have to actually let go of it, you know. You could just put it in the garage. That's what I do. But, you know, moving, like, here in the future, as we, like, navigate what's to come, I think that, like, community living and certain things are going to be, like, the only path forward for a lot of us. And we're not going to be able to take all of our shit with us where we go and do all these things. So we have to start condensing. But I like my things. I like my things. Eddie wants me to start a bookstore where I sell books. And I was like, what books? He's like, your books. I'm like, I'm not going to sell my books. Well, you can sell the ones you read. I know. I kept it. I like it. I'm going to read it again or reference it. I'm not going to get rid of it. Well, there's some you don't like. Okay, yeah, there's some I don't like. I'll sell those. But he wants me to sell a bunch of the kids' books. The kids have like a whole bunch of books and they're not going to read them again. I can do that. I could do that. That's a thing I can do. But I definitely want to focus more on like the ancestral generational line of things. And I have some objects in mind. I'm not going to like get rid of, but I'm going to do some sort of like maybe like cord cutting, like karmic cord cutting ritual involving those objects, you know, like, and then in order to like integrate those wounds, because somebody's got to do it. But I'm not going to get rid of stuff. I'll just keep it. But I'll keep it somewhere else after I work with it and move beyond it. I'll put it in a box. Yes, the karma. So we can do like through intention, through ritual around that time, around Samhain. Like last year I put like on my altar, like pictures of my grandma and my aunt and my uncle. Like really, my family's very small. I don't really have much, so that's pretty much the only people I know who have passed on. And I did a sort of like, I also feel like I got a lot of my uncle's karma. I actually kind of think I might be him. And he died right before I was born, like a year before I was born. So last year I did like on my altar, like I put their pictures and I put certain crystals in order to like work with their like generational trauma lineage and like work to like break free from a lot of it so that like my kids don't repeat it type of a thing. And now I think I might bring in some objects. I don't know. I'll post on Discord when I find out what I'm going to do. And Sharon says she'll definitely have a few in mind and well. Okay, cool. We'll post over on Discord what kind of things we do and whatnot. And we'll talk more around the moons. But I adore you guys so much. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. I know it is late. There's still 6 of you guys stayed awake this late. Usually everybody watches it in the morning. Oh, I feel so special. I adore you guys so much. Thank you so much for supporting my work and for hanging around during September while I was sick and I got better. I appreciate you guys. I really, really, really do. We're going to have a rabbit hole this month. It's going to be weird. I'm in it right now. And then we have our moon videos too where, you know, we'll dive in deeper. So I adore you guys. I will see you later. I'm going to catch up on the threads over on Discord. I haven't really been over there too much. I see it's popping off. I need to catch up. Oh, thank you, Kathleen. Yeah, deep breaths. I might have to make that Ever After meme again where she's like, just breathe. I feel like we're in a October, I mean, really, the next couple months is a just breathe. But a lot of those squares, those Pluto squares, those Saturn squares, those are intense. But we need it. These things are what trigger us into action. Any sort of like stagnation, any sort of indecision, any sort of stuff. These are the triggers that are triggering us into action. We just then need to make sure that we are taking aligned action and not action based on lower chakra triggers. Like fear, insecurity, a lack of sense of stability, aggression, anger, things like that. But more out of like that evolved like hero archetype of like doing it, taking this action because this is aligned with my values. This is aligned with my morals. This is aligned with my truth. This is aligned with my justice. Yes, I might have to let a lot of things go in order to take this trajectory that is aligned with said truth. And Scorpio season is really going to be there to like shed a lot of things, cut a lot of things away. But it'll all be more in alignment because we are heading into eclipse season, and that is when fate takes the reins. Fate takes the reins, and destiny jumps in the seat of the chariot and drives us to where we couldn't have even fathomed we needed to be, but we sure the fuck needed to be there. And it's gonna be fun. I was born during eclipse season, so I'm cool with it, but it's definitely gonna be intense. It'll be intense. But we're over on Discord. You guys can come and talk about all your intense stuff, and we'll be like, yeah, we feel it too. All right, guys. Have a great night. I adore you. We will talk soon. Bye.